Hey guys, what's going on? So we have some really exciting news with Workhorse Group. We're going to take a break from talking about Nikola. And Workhorse, as you can see, is up close to 6% on the day, and it's just been on an absolute rip for the past week. And there are a couple of reasons of this, as you can see, like a 11% increase over the past week. Um, and namely, they're getting closer to the USPS contract, and they're also being able to scale their manufacturing process. And we're going to be talking about all of that in this article here. But for the very beginning, we're going to be talking step by step on how they're going to be able to scale production. So, one of the more bearish points was that in their latest quarter, as we'll see in this highlighted area, they officially began production and delivered 3 C-Series electric step vans to Ryder System, Inc. and Electric Vehicle Fleet Solutions. So they were only able to deliver 3 of their trucks, okay? And I mean, that sounds like a pretty small number, but at least their trucks are functional and they were actually able to deliver their trucks, right? So, I mean, in my opinion, that's pretty huge because when we look at something like Nikola, which is valued at around like 12 billion, um, and they haven't delivered any trucks, and then you look at something like Workhorse, right now the value is like at 2.8 billion. They've already started delivering their trucks, right? So at least on that front, they've actually been successful. Also, some really good news. They became the first and only medium-duty battery electric vehicle OEM to receive approvals from both Environmental Protection Agency as well as the California Air Resource Board. So pretty much permitting the company to sell vehicles in all 50 states. And then they reaffirmed previous production and delivery target of 300 to 400 vehicles in 2020. And we'll see where that estimate is. But of course, with the USPS contract, which is in itself like 180,000 vehicles, and Workhorse has a pretty good chance of gaining all or at least part of that contract, they might need to scale production more rapidly. So the next piece of news is Workhorse enters into strategic agreements with Hitachi and Hitachi Capital America. So again, one of the bearish points was that, okay, they were only able to produce and deliver 3 trucks, right? So they definitely need to scale up their manufacturing process if they ever want to produce more than that. But they don't necessarily have the workspace to do so. So one of this comes, and this is relatively old news, August 31st, that Workhorse entering into a strategic partnership with this Japanese company. And I'll just read the most important and most salient points. So under these agreements, Hitachi America and other Hitachi Group companies, or Hitachi, will provide an operational assessment of Workhorse's manufacturing, operational, and supply chain capabilities, so aka increasing their production capacity, and also benchmark to best-in-class standards and provide recommendations to Workhorse that support the company's increased production requirements. Okay, so again, huge news that they're partnering with Hitachi. And so, a quote here: "This alliance with Hitachi comes at an ideal time for Workhorse as we value their best-in-class innovation and experience." They actually have this Japanese company has experience in ramping up production and enabling us in providing a complete solution to our customers, which is just the more expedient manufacturer of their last mile delivery vans. Okay, and another bullish point was in a recent interview with the CEO of Lordstown. If you guys don't know, Workhorse has a 10% stake of Lordstown, so they're also in a strategic partnership. Um, Pretty much, the CEO was saying in this interview that if need be, Workhorse will actually be able to produce some of their vehicles inside the Lordstown Motor Factory, which is a lot bigger, if they don't have enough space, right? So, I think the bearish point earlier that Workhorse won't have enough of capacity to be producing vehicles en masse is sort of discredited with all these relevant points, right? They have all the partnerships that they fully need to access increasing production, right? And so now this main article comes in talking about the 970% rally in 6 months of Workhorse. And it's also a bullish thesis saying that Workhorse Group is not overvalued despite this rally, right? And this was published today. So the bullet points are the main things that are of relevance here. So even after a big rally of 970% in the last 6 months, um, the reason that he believes Workhorse is still undervalued is that the growth journey has just started for the company, right? Workhorse stock might correct after a massive rally, which I hope it does, because I missed the rally, so I don't have any shares in Workhorse, and we'll talk about the price that I would be willing to get into Workhorse at. However, corrections for this would be an opportunity for fresh exposure, right? And I totally agree. So first of all, investors, sorry for the wind in there, I'm just trying to protect the little mic here. Investors would still be wary of a stock that has skyrocketed in the recent past. So let's look at some valuation insights. Workhorse stock currently has a market cap of 2.5 billion. Well, right now we saw it was 2.8 billion. As of close, 2.8 billion. And back in June 2020, this asset management said that the hedge fund noted that the company's 10% stake in Lordstown Motors could be potentially valued at 1 billion, even if the market views Lordstown only half as valuable as Nikola. And as you know, there's a bunch of problems with Nikola, but this is pre-Nikola right here. By June 2020, everything was still high-end Annie for Nikola. Therefore, if the stake is as valuable as Nikola, the 10% investment would be valued at 2 billion. So right now they're saying that Lordstown is the market views Lordstown as half as valuable as Nikola, even though I think they believe here that this is irrational, right? So clearly a current market cap of 2.8 billion is not very expensive. That's pretty much their first argument here, which I think, like there's a lot of problems with Nikola. So obviously the valuation of Nikola came down. So it's not really like a relevant argument, but still, they're comparing it to Nikola and saying that Nikola or Workhorse is undervalued when we compare to Nikola, which, fair enough. So, skeptics will immediately point to the fact that the company signed an agreement with United Parcel Service in April 2012. This was an initial agreement to electrify UPS delivery trucks. However, 8 years down the line, only 6 orders have been placed, totaling 1,345 vehicles. The scalability of the business can therefore be questioned, right? If only 1,345 vehicles orders have been placed, and I mean, they only delivered, like, as we said in Q2, like 3 trucks, right? However, their second point here is that the key reason is that there has been a gradual process in the development of charging infrastructure and lowering of charging costs over the years. So finally, the industry is at a point where delivery truck orders are poised to accelerate, right? So they need to build basically the infrastructure behind it before orders come on in and before investors are more satisfied with the tech in place, right? So this comes from an article in New York Times, this little quote here. So now that battery tech is catching up to ambitions, many companies are making big commitments to electrify the last delivery mile. The rush to electrify, prompted by concerns about climate change, a chance to offset growing delivery costs, government regulation, which, by the way, will be even more strict with the environment if Biden gets elected, and he promises to do big things for the environment, or at least more than Donald Trump does, and big advances in battery tech is occurring as the pandemic has caused a huge spike in package delivery. Okay, so again, the tech is now there for Workhorse to be able to have more orders than the 1,345 plus the USPS contract, which is point number 3. Workhorse stock surging in recent past is because of these potential changes. The company is expected a $6.3 billion contract from USPS for 165,000 vehicles. And so obviously any positive development on this possible contract can send the stock skyrocketing. Okay. Workhorse Group also claims of validation from blue chip customers that include United Parcel Service, FedEx Corporation, Ryder System, and DHL. And so these partnerships can translate into future contracts in the upcoming years as EV truck adoption gains traction, right? Fourth point, so from a manufacturing perspective, the company already has the ability to produce more than 60,000 vehicles on an annual basis. And I mean, I don't know where they got this number from, 60,000, but yeah, I need to do more research in that. But according to this report, has the ability to produce more than 60,000 vehicles. maybe from all this positive news on the strategic partnership with Hitachi, and also with available space at the Lordstown producing company. Okay. Um, so of course, now this point here, in my opinion, is more speculative. So coming back to the company's 10% stake in Lordstown Motors, the management has mentioned in Q2 2020 that Lordstown Motors has already received 27,000 pre-orders for a potential revenue of 1.4 billion. Okay, this is just potential revenue of 1.4 billion. That doesn't actually mean that all those 27,000 pre-orders will actually turn into revenue for Lordstown Motors. But again, of course, that's good news for Workhorse with a 10% stake in Lordstown. Okay, another positive thing in again, in my opinion, is something called a short squeeze. If you go to this website called Short Squeeze, you can search up Workhorse Group, how many short positions are on Workhorse Group. So as you can see, so prior, the amount of shares shorted was 23 million, and that decreased to 20 million, and that's a 10% decrease in the amount of shares shorted, right, as can be seen here. So that is incredibly good news for Workhorse, because now what might increasingly happen as more bulls enter Workhorse and more retail investors enter Workhorse, is that this will keep driving the stock price up as they want more shares of the company. And pretty much what might happen is a short squeeze, which, as you can see here, is defined as a rapid increase in the price of the stock that occurs when there's a lack of supply and an excess of demand for the stock. So it results when short sellers cover their positions on a stock. And so this can occur if the price has risen to a point where short sellers must make margin calls, or pretty much more loosely, if short sellers simply decide to cut their losses and get out. So this decrease in the short interest might represent a bit of a short squeeze of Workhorse. And we'll have to see if that plays out even more so over the next coming days as this deal with USPS closes, especially depending on how many trucks USPS wants to get from Workhorse. But that is, again, all to be determined. But again, I think Workhorse is definitely well poised to be one of the main companies in this USPS contract and beyond. And I mean, right now, I think this company is just like too expensive for my liking in order to buy in right now. I would love for it to see it come to like, $23, $24. I don't even know if it'll ever come to that. But right now, I just don't feel comfortable in buying in, especially since, over the past month, it has went from like a $15 stock up 71% to close to $27, right? Even though that the market cap is still only 2.8 billion, I just don't know how I feel about buying in, because what if the deal doesn't go through? Then they lose a lot of that hype and speculation that is pretty much betting on Workhorse to actually get this deal. Anyways, that's just my opinion. This is just all commentary. I thought it was very interesting about this today, and just wanted to present a company, unlike Nikola, that actually has trucks on the road, being able to have deliverables, right? And that's always important. But anyways, I hope you all enjoy this video. If you did, please give it a like and consider subscribing, and have a fantastic day, guys.